Hey, you're listening to the Jack John Beat Around. I'm your host, Brad, here with your.
Host Crystal.
Hey, Crystal's here. And it is the month of All Hallows, and we are doing our best for the Dark Lord. So, isn't that true, sister? Praise the Dark One. So, I had an eventful weekend. Attempted to go to a convention, a comic book convention, or what have you, nearby with a friend of mine. I didn't quite make it. We also had planned to pick up some of that Szechuan sauce that McDonald's was offering that you told me about.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I got
Yes.
lucky. Just happened to, I just happened to find an article mentioning that they were giving away the Szechuan sauce plus the posters,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
were great looking.
Yeah.
You
They were
can
having.
find them online to see.
Yeah. On the 7th of October, 2017. Some certain locations, a few locations per state. There's about 4 or 5 per our state. One was in the general location we were heading to, and it was only at 2 o'clock. It was like this big weird cross promotional thing, and McDonald's greatly underestimated
Yeah.
how much people would. And I've heard terrible things. I've heard some sites didn't even get the sauce. Some of them didn't have 20 pack. They only got 20 packs per site. Each restaurant, whatever you want to call it, only got 20 packs. And McDonald's kind of messed up. People are not happy. They had to call cops at one site because the people were almost rioting for Szechuan
Hmm.
sauce. It's pretty crazy. But I didn't get to go to the convention, but I did get to pick up a Space Jam T-shirt, and I did get a Rick and Morty construction set. That was a whole lot of fun. I put that together today. Took a couple of hours, and some of it was a little frustrating, but it was kind of fun. Hope to get some more. So what did you do while I was out wandering the highways and byways?
I was putting together my Hulu ween, which is
Mhm.
watching Halloween episodes on Hulu. I watched I finished watching all of the Sabrina the Teenage Witch Halloween episodes, which they have one for every season except for the last season. And they're all good, and you can watch without having to watch the whole show. That's one thing about a lot of the sitcoms. You can just go watch the individual episodes and enjoy them. So I watched those, and I also watched the Step by Step Halloween episode, which unless you're a really big fan of the show, you can kind of
Yeah.
pass on.
Yeah,
It,
I really I hated certain elements of that show. So I doubt
well,
any
that
casual viewing
episode,
would be good.
the episode wasn't very Halloween-ish. It was just that it was framed within Halloween. It had a Halloween party, but the real story was about one of the sons wanting to hook up with this sexy bad girl, and he
Hmm.
is the nerdy son,
Yeah.
and he's discovering his hormones, and that you know they'll make you do whatever. And he goes and eggs houses with her and gets in trouble and gets back brought back home and has to have like pretty much the boner talk with his stepdad
Yeah, that's got to be
about
fun.
how yeah, being horny will make you do a lot of things.
Now, step by step, that's not the one What was the one that started with the woman from Rhoda, and then they killed her off? Is that
I
one?
have. I don't think so. I have absolutely no
Okay.
idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, there
Now,
was
step by
one. There
step is
was.
one. Step by step is it was the modern Brady Bunch of that time period.
Okay.
Suzanne Summers
Oh,
had
okay.
two
That's the one
dogs.
with Suzanne Summers. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's the sheriff.
Huh?
She's the sheriff.
Uh, what do
Just,
you mean? Like,
that was a show she was on. I was
oh, sorry, never heard
referencing
of it.
it randomly. You never heard of She's the Sheriff? Yeah. I hope someday
Um,
maybe they'll do a remake with a guy in the lead called He's the Sheriff. Just show those feminists. But so yeah, this it's yeah, I watched Perfect Strangers with you.
yes, that was a good
Part
one.
of Hulu, and
I,
yeah, they
I
always had
actually,
really good Halloween episodes.
I actually still vaguely remember little pieces of that one.
Yeah.
No, we still have another one of theirs to watch. That's a
Okay.
Halloween one, I believe.
Yeah, we watched
Uh,
the one that's a essentially spoof of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where they're going
yes,
to the planet
where
Mythos. Yeah.
Larry thinks that Balky is an alien who's
Yeah.
taken
Well,
over.
Larry stays up late, eats junk food, and watches a horror movie
Well,
marathon, and then
I
has a
didn't want to say
dream. I'm
spoiler,
gonna
but yes,
spoil it. Spoil it. It's a
yeah,
dream. By the way,
yes, a dream.
Balky's not actually an alien from Mythos, but yeah, it's a dream episode, which they don't really do in sitcoms anymore. I guess I don't really watch a lot of sitcoms on network television anymore.
That's actually, occasionally, I think the dream
Yeah.
thing is not as popular, but occasionally that'll
I'm
still
sure
pop
I'm
up a
sure it's
little
a
bit.
pretty common trope. The
It is.
dreams, the flashbacks, the fantasy episodes, all that. The the common tropes. But it is the month of All Hallows, October, and we've both been going back and forth watching as much spooky television and movies as we can. And we've racked up about 5 movies this week, give or take, between us. If you, I'm not going to include the 15 minutes in of the last 15 minutes I watched of The Curse of Chucky, uh, which I have to say was pretty good. I highly recommend that last 15 minutes of that movie. So I think I also caught like the first 5 minutes. Not as good as the last 15. Um, Pretty good. But what was the first one we watched this week? Let's just go in order.
The Bermuda Death?
The
Is that what it was called?
Bermuda Depths, yes, from 1977. It's 77 or 78.
Uh,
It's the second movie in a trio of films where the well-known Rankin Bass, who's well known for Rudolph the
but
Red-Nosed
don't get
Reindeer.
excited about that because
Don't
I
get
could not
excited.
tell.
Get excited. It's Rankin Bass. Woo!
It's not. It's
But
not. I
it
know.
is. I mean, it's the production company. I mean, their name's on the deed or whatever. That's
Well, that might be true. But
Rankin Bass production.
I was
Were you
expecting
expecting talking
stop
snowman? And
motion, more or less.
I'm pretty sure Burl Ives was stop motion. He was a pretty cheesy effect from what I recall. Oh yes, I was actually expecting. Okay, so before we get started, by the way, there are going to be lots and lots of spoilers for all of these movies. Most of them terrible. Actually, I don't think we're going to spoil the really good ones. We'll just say, "Oh, go watch those. They're really good." But we're going to tear apart some of these really terrible movies because they deserve it. And some of them that really terrible were really good and deserve it. So we're going to do that. So before we get to Bermuda Depths, spoilers. Bermuda Depths is about a giant turtle who may be the devil. I'm still not clear on that. Uh, and I was expecting the giant turtle, giant sea turtle, I should clarify, to be stop motion at times. So I thought that's where
That's
Rankin
what
Bass
I
was.
had expected
Yeah.
too.
But let me finish explaining the history of this movie a little bit.
Okay.
Rankin Bass did team up. There's three movies they teamed up with. The Last Dinosaur, which is not about Denver, was the first
Mm,
one. There was The Last Dinosaur, then The Bermuda Depths, then one called, I believe, Ivory Ape, which is really, really hard to find. And if you can find a copy of it somewhere, get in touch with us. Get it in our hands. I want to see it because I can find The Last Dinosaur, but I cannot find Ivory Ape. This is three movies they did. They teamed up with a Japanese production company called Subaraya, which is really well known for the Ultraman TV series, which, Ultraman, big giant robot man who fights big giant robots. So all these movies, at least two of them, I don't think Ivory Ape does, have big giant monsters in them. So there's a big giant turtle, there's a big giant dinosaur in The Last Dinosaur. Maybe there's a big ape in Ivory Ape. Haven't seen it. Haven't seen that one. Hope to
it
someday.
makes sense.
Possibly. I think it does have Jack Palance in there, so I want to see that.
I
Um,
got who?
huh?
Who?
Jack Palance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Believe it or
Curly.
not. Who?
So wait, Curly,
Yeah,
Curly,
Curly's
Curly,
Gold. Curly's Gold. A ton of
City
bad
Slicker.
westerns, and yeah, he was on Ripley's Believe It or Not. Yeah, he's done a ton of stuff.
I forgot
Angel's
about that. I
Revenge.
used to watch that.
Yeah, Angel's Revenge. He was in that.
Not that.
Uh,
I used to watch
but you,
Ripley.
yeah,
That was
you've
Ripley.
seen Angel's Revenge though, right?
I don't think so. What's
Yeah,
that?
it was on Mystery Science Theater. It's the seven. It's Charlie's Angels, but there's seven of them.
No.
Oh, you remember it. Mr. Howell shows up in it, and Mr. Haney.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
That does sound kind of familiar.
yeah. You're forgetting it. Let's talk about Bermuda Depths then.
Okay.
So, it's a bad movie. Like I said, 77. It's a TV movie. It has its moments, but it's kind of boring because the way it reads, it's a movie about a giant killer turtle. There's a ghost, maybe. It sounds like a Godzilla movie with a ghost in it, really, is what, or a Gamera movie. But it mostly turns
Well,
out
that's
to
what
be,
you think you're getting.
yeah, that's what you think you're getting. That's my point. It's like, oh, this sounds fun. It's a kaiju supernatural TV film. It sounds like it's going to be really cheesy, but maybe kind of fun. And Burl Ives is going to be in it. Carl Weathers is in there. So it's he's really great. It turns into a weird. He has a weird Ahab kind of relationship to the turtle later on that, of course, literally leads to his doom and everything. But the main character, I want to say, is Tommy. I always just call him Tommy or Kenny or something. Tommy, who as a kid knew this little girl, and him and her carved their initials in a sea turtle's back, which don't do. Right? I mean, that's not something you should do. And it goes away. She swims away with the turtle. He goes home, goes to bed, and then his father is killed, obviously by something from the sea. Something from the sea rises up and kills him. And it turns out later on, he was experimenting in gigantism in sea animals, which I don't think had anything to do with you. You think, well, maybe he made this giant turtle, right? That's where this is going. But then it turns out like the girl is actually the ghost of someone from 100 years ago. Who this is an interesting plot point to me. She's on a boat. It's in the Bermuda Triangle and shot on location, by the way. It's in the Bermuda Triangle, and the evil sea demon of the depths or something is going to crash their ship, and everyone on board is praying to God to save them, and she's the last one to pray. She prays to the demon in the depths to save her and take everyone else, which I think is kind of a bold move.
Yeah.
You're the only
Or
one for like save me, kill everyone else, and so the turtle demon god whatever of the sea saves her, but kills everyone else, takes her, and she's maybe she's a turtle now. I really don't understand what she. I guess she becomes a ghost. She becomes like a local legend, though. Supposedly that
Now,
is
didn't
she's
they spear the turtle at one point, but she ended up with the spear wounds on her?
yeah, yeah. At one point, Carl
But
Weathers
also, the
goes.
turtle
Okay,
is
now
supposed to be
let's. We're getting ahead of
like,
ourselves on that. The ghost woman is a local legend. She's like a siren who, if you see her, your ship's gonna crash or something. And also, they see something that like up on the beach. It looks like a giant turtle had crawled up on the beach. So Burl Ives and Carl Weathers and this guy Tommy, who's been gone for years, shows up. He's gonna go out, and they're apparently all marine biologists, which doesn't pay well because Carl Weathers can't afford an entire shirt apparently. He's either shirtless or half a shirt or open shirt, can't get buttons. Get the man a tailor. But I guess he's the meat in this sandwich that sells the show or whatever. Um, but he goes out. They get a giant turtle. They think caught in their net, and he has to go down. You can't really see what happens, but he shoots something with a spear gun, and later the girl Jenny, is it Jenny? I was
maybe, I
thinking
think it
something was
was.
like Jenny something. I can't remember what her full name was. Shows up and she's got a wound. So there's the insinuation that she was a turtle caught in the net, which doesn't make any sense. I guess it's,
No.
but she's like this giant turtle too. I don't know. Or she's
But
like a
they
sea
say that
monster.
turtle at the beginning of the movie when they were children, and that's supposed to be the giant turtle, too?
Yeah, because at the very end of the movie, when they show the giant turtle swimming off, Carl Weathers in tow because he's impaled it with a giant hook, a la Moby Dick, is swimming off. They zoom in and you can see this gigantic heart with their initials in it because it grew as the
Yeah.
turtle did. Um, it's a terrible movie for all these reasons. Everyone dies except Tommy, who should have been the one to die. You know, I really think he should have died and gone to be with her. Carl Weathers should not have died. They
Yeah, that was
managed.
terrible and weird that he
Yeah,
died.
yeah. I mean, it was like this total Ahab moment. He gets hooked on the turtle, gets pulled under. They managed to. I can't remember how they do it, but um, Burl Ives is in a helicopter above them, and they managed to, the turtle manages to take out the helicopter somehow. I don't remember how that happened, but they blow up the
Nice.
helicopter, and the pilot who we never met dies. The only people who survive are Tommy and Carl Weathers' wife, and the wife shouldn't be a widow. Tommy should have been drowned at sea to be with his turtle girlfriend.
Yeah, I kind of would have liked to have like a splash ending where he goes to be with her,
I don't want
you
him to.
know?
I didn't want a happy ending though. I wanted an ending
Well,
like the ending to the devil movie where the fish lives.
oh,
Is it
that's
Kiss
a
of the
Satan.
Devil? Touch of Satan, yeah. Touch of Satan where there's a moment where he has to essentially do the same thing she did and
Yeah.
like get saved by the turtle and gets to spend the rest of his
That
life
would
with.
have made sense,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was like I was expecting. This was turning into. I was like, oh, this is kind of like Touch of Satan, and he's gonna commit himself to the sea god or whatever and become a whatever Ginny was, this mermaid or whatever. But yeah, it's a bad movie. I recommend it. I say watch it. You know, it's
I
free.
don't.
It's interesting. It's fun. It's fun. I had fun watching it to a point. It was fun to watch. Watch it with a
I thought
friend.
it
Watch
was,
it with
it's
people.
very long.
Watch it with booze and drugs. Don't watch it alone. You know, um
I think it was very long and
it is
boring,
a little
and it
long.
could have
Yeah.
been much better for its plot. I mean, giant turtle, ghost lady, like, I was
Yeah.
expecting, like, Gamera with a ghost,
Yeah.
you know, and I did not get that at
Ghost
all.
girl. Yeah.
And the turtle, the only scene of the turtle we even have is the same scene shown. Every time the giant turtle shown, except for at the very end, it's just that one scene of it swimming towards the camera,
Yeah.
swimming towards the camera. That's it. We
Yeah.
never, it's the same scene every time, except for the end where we see it finally swim past the camera and it's got the where they carved, which is
Mm,
fucking horrible. Don't
yeah.
carve
Do not
into
carve a
turtle
turtle.
shells.
No. They
That's
feel that.
cruel.
Yeah.
But
So yeah.
yeah, but yeah, like until it swims past and we see where they carved their names and heart
Yeah.
onto the turtle,
And
which
and I was expecting a little bit Jaws, a little bit
it was
more
a little
Jaws,
jaws.
I think.
It
Yeah,
was a
there
little.
was a little Jaws. I expected them to go all in on like trying to make a Jaws ripoff. And I think if they'd committed more to a Jaws ripoff, it would have been a better movie. Maybe I don't know if it would have been as interesting as this one could have been. But it feels like there's a lot of missed opportunities
Yeah, I
in this
agree with
movie.
that.
There was the whole thing. They did sell something really well. The whole time's like you don't know if she's there a lot. There's all these scenes of him talking to her,
Yeah,
and there's always these scenes where like people are angled talking to them where you can't tell if they see her or not. You know, like he's in a building with her and someone's outside yelling for him and he goes outside. So is she there or not? You know, you never know if she's a real being or like his imagination or an actual ghost and all this, which of course she's an actual ghost, but no one else seems to ever see her, and they think he's nuts, which is apparently like a subplot. Oh, by the way, yeah, he was in an asylum or something for a while because his whole family got killed by a giant turtle, which his father didn't make. That's something that bothers me. Is like, why was his father involved in sea organism gigantism, and there's a giant turtle, but obviously it's a supernatural giant turtle and has nothing to do with his father's experiments, but he had to get killed? I still don't understand the point of that.
I don't
Now,
know.
what was the point of that plot line? Of his father. Why was his father killed? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Filler.
Yeah, and I guess to make him an orphan, because you know that's interesting. But yeah, I say maybe watch it. It's
I
not
think
so
I'll
bad.
watch
Well, like watch it with a friend. Watch it with someone you
it.
love.
Maybe with a friend,
Yeah,
but I still say no. It's
it's not good. It's not good.
no, it's not.
It's yeah. So, but the next night you got to pick the movie.
And that was the ruins
That was The Ruin.
about sort of sentient plants that
Spoilers, by the way.
yeah.
Yeah, I was.
But
That's one thing. Is like I wish I had known going in because that would have been more interesting to ever. Because I knew that
yeah.
going in. I don't really want to talk that much about the ruins, except maybe I'd rather read the book and you should see it. It's not bad.
It's really not. It's
No,
actually pretty decent
yeah, it's pretty good.
for what it is. Um, a bunch of tourists down in where are they?
I want to think it's
Is it
South
South
America.
America or Mexico? Past
It's
Mexico, I believe. I believe
it's
it is South
Mayan
America.
ruins, and I'm not really
Yeah, where the
sure.
Mayan ruins are.
So yeah,
And um, they get trapped on top of some Mayan ruins where, I guess it doesn't matter about spoilers,
no,
where they, over time, they come to realize the plants are kind of alive
yeah,
and can
intelligent, kind of a
perceive them.
smart, yeah, kind of smart.
Kinda. I mean,
They're highly evolved plants that can replicate human voices and crave the
yeah.
flesh of the living and will crawl up inside you if you fall asleep on them.
Ooh,
So, yeah.
ooh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Some of that stuff is
Yeah.
kind
It's
of
it's a
skin
very
crawling.
cringy it's a very
It is
cringy movie. It's a little gory.
a little bit, yeah.
There's some very
Came out during that
gratuitous.
hostile time period where it was pretty much don't leave, don't go out of the country.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna
Like
say this is equivalent to
tourists
something
dying.
like Hostel. It's a little like a body horror Saw kind of movie, but instead of like some kind of mad person carving people up, it's plants. And people are getting
Yeah.
carved up like they fall from a height and their leg breaks in a weird way or they get cut and it's just very
And then the
gruesome. Yeah,
plants get inside of you, and you have to cut
yeah,
them out.
crawling in there and it's really good. It's creepy. It's very
It's actually,
creepy.
I do actually can recommend the ruins. I like it
Yeah,
more
I do.
than, it's better than it should be
Yeah,
for
it's
what it
pretty good.
is.
Yeah.
And I do want to read the book to see if it explains more, maybe the mythology
Yeah, I would like a little more
that's behind
background
it.
on the history of the plant, and I will
Because
say
you
this:
get this,
the
this
only
has been going on
negative,
for probably centuries. This is not
yeah,
something
oh
new.
yeah,
This is
you get
something
the
that,
yeah, you do get the idea that it's I want to see like a prequel because the local Mayans are controlling the plants,
yeah,
are keeping them isolated from getting out, and that's their whole job. So they're trying to keep people away from them, and you know, it's very brutal. If anyone touches the plant, they immediately have to kill them. So yeah, it's obviously this is something they've
because,
been doing for centuries. So I'd like to see more background on
yeah,
that. The only negative I have for the whole movie is the first half or more. Getting to the point, well, it's probably not even half, but getting to the point of the ruins, getting to the actual ruins, is kind of slow, you know. And I'll say
yeah,
this, like, if you saw this movie and didn't know the actual plot, which probably, I mean, if you saw a trailer or something, you would know. You would expect it to be sort of a standard. Don't go hang out with foreign people in a foreign like if you run into a friendly Russian, don't go with him. You
yeah.
know, into the woods because you're probably going to get, you know, tied up and sold into
Well,
bondage
that was
or
one of our questions. Was like,
yeah,
is he gonna
yeah,
be? And I don't know if there's something at first for like, is he a part of this? You
yeah,
know, is this like a trick to get them out there to be sacrifices or
yeah.
something?
It definitely comes across like that. It has that same kind of feel to it. Pretty interesting. I do recommend. I'm probably going to recommend everything on the list though for different reasons. I recommend this because it's good and not so bad you want to watch it to see if you can tolerate it. So
Yeah, it's actually a
it's
pretty
actually a good movie.
interesting take on it. I do wonder though, like, what happens if you get touched and they don't, and you get away, and they don't force you or into the onto the pyramid, or if they don't kill you,
I
like
have
what
to assume, well,
happens?
you know, this you get the spores on you, and that they're. I mean, apparently that's bad.
Is it gonna spread? Is that what's
Yes,
gonna
yeah,
happen?
yeah. If you pay attention throughout the movie, they have growths on their clothes that are
Yeah, I know
spreading
they're
from
growing
day to
that
day. Yeah,
mold all over them.
yeah. So I have to assume it's really if it gets past a certain area, it'll. Which does beg the questions like, doesn't the wind? I mean, aren't
Yeah,
you know most plants just are airborne spores and stuff and cross pollinate and but they do point out that insects and birds won't come near the plant.
that's
Which
true.
I mean,
Yeah,
as I was like, I like ask a botanist. Can we like? I want a botanist to watch this movie and it's like, is this possible? How could you actually isolate a plant like this in the middle of a jungle?
yeah,
That's what doesn't make sense to me. Is like I could see like if this was like it was there was no other plant life around for miles, but I mean it's like 10 feet. You know,
yeah.
there's
It's
like
not even that
a very
far.
small
They
area around
salted
the temple that
they
isn't
salted the earth
grown.
around the
Yeah,
temple, but it's not that. It's like it's not that huge of an area away from the
yeah,
jungle. I mean, it's like sitting there right in the middle of the
yeah.
jungle, and yes, the area around the temple's been salted, and nothing is growing there, and the
But I mean,
plants
if you're a
can't.
plant, yeah, if you're a plant that's evolved to mimic the calls of your prey, it moves, it's mobile. You know, all
Yeah,
these things. It's like it seems like so your reproduction is limited to contact. You can't just spread yourself through the wind. You don't take advantage of pollinating insects or birds. I mean, it just seems like it sounds like an evolutionary cul-de-sac for this plant. It's like you've made a mistake and it should have been dead by now. Like apparently people just keep stumbling onto these ruins. It's like, why don't you just burn it down? I mean, is that a way it spreads? I don't know. I have so many questions. I want to read the book.
That's yeah. That's why I
I
was
got to
like,
read
I
the
want to let
book.
the book answer some of this stuff.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
like
Why don't
I
they
was
burn it?
like, has a
Why don't
bot?
they? Why don't they kill this plant?
Yeah, why is it even still here? And how did it survive all these years
Yeah.
as it is without being able to reproduce? And the next is a movie that is definitely a movie. I actually did hear about this movie. I watched a review. Still don't remember who it was. One of those internet YouTubers watched this really bad movie and did a review of it. And I was intrigued, and it was. I didn't think I would ever get to see it though, because it's kind of obscure. It actually goes by several titles. It also is known as uh, Demon Mask. I want to think it's one of the names for it. Also known as I can't remember the name. Halloween Night, I think, is called. And but the most common name, the best name, the fun name that it goes by is Hack O Lantern. And we watched this movie, and it at first I would have to say, oh my goodness, it seems so
I
bad.
do. I do want to say some.
Yeah.
It's it is obscure maybe or a little known, but it's not so much that you. I mean, there is a Blu-ray release for it with
Oh yeah, yeah.
commentary.
There's a Blu-ray. There was a really good Blu-ray with the commentary. I want to get my hands on to
Was that
learn
Shout
more.
Factory who put
It
out?
wasn't Shout Factory. It was. I'll try to look that up. It wasn't Shout Factory. Surprisingly, it was some other imprint that they. But they did a. It also comes with like a VHS, not a VHS of them, but just like a VHS cover. Just that you could get with it if you order the special edition Blu-ray or something.
Uh,
Uh, Let me pull that up real quick. But yeah, it's from 1987. Goes by several names. Um,
it's a bad movie, but one that's kind of
it won me
fun.
over. It won me over. Is
It
what
did
I had.
you
It
more so
it
than it
I
did
did.
me.
Yeah, I didn't. I just it was going. I mean, I was laughing the whole time. It's Massacre Video is I think is who did the Blu-ray. If you go to their website, they have you can order the edition with the VHS cover. But anyway, yeah, it when it started, it's just like I think I definitely will put it in the this is so bad it's good, and I think it was for me it went from this is so bad it's epic. It just I mean the more I thought about this movie, the more I got into it, and the more I started thinking about the plot. I was like, this was actually a really good movie with some terrible acting. It's like if I don't know. It's like if Ed Wood did Citizen Kane. You know, it's a really good movie, but with terrible acting and directing, and some really weird choices. I can't even remember. I don't even know who directed it. But I will say this: the best character in the movie was Grandpa.
Yes, I know you love Grandpa.
I love Grandpa so much. Oh my God. Dressed like Torgo, talked like Harvey Firestein if he was Cajun. Um, so good. And I swear I think you brought it up. There was like so many scenes with some random weirdo with some random talent in the middle of the movie. There was a stripper at one point. There was a guy doing stand up in a parking lot. And your observation is like it was a revelation because you're like, yeah, I think that guy's probably a friend of the director. And it dawned on me, I think everyone in the movie was a friend of the director. It's
Yeah.
the only thing that would explain some of their presence in this movie is like how did they end up? How did any of these people end up in this movie? They're all friends of the director, and that shines through with some of the acting. It's just terrible acting. But it works in a way in the long run. Like I said, I'm gonna put this movie up there. I know you don't want to hear this. I'd put it right up there against Manos, and I mean that in the best possible way. that it's
You
inexplicable.
just
It has an inexplicable quality to it that I can only compare to Manos when I watch it,
just
or something
weirdly
like an
obsessed with
Ed Wood film.
Manos.
I love Manos, or like an Ed Wood. It had an Ed Wood quality to it. The plot of the movie, to my understanding, it took me a while. It actually took me a while to get what the whole point of this movie was. Grandpa is, and once again, spoilers for this movie. If you want to see this movie, I highly recommend. Crystal and I both highly recommend. And guarantee
I
your
know how I
money back.
recommend it, but
Guarantee your
I can
money
get
back.
behind. I can actually get behind recommending this
Yes.
one, but it's a bad
Stop.
movie, but it's
Yeah.
so weird.
Yes. Stop listening right now and go watch this movie. Last time I checked, it was on YouTube. Go watch it. Uh, Stop listening and then come back and listen to our discourse on the rest of the movie as we go through the plot and some plot points that eluded me at first, that I got while I was like in the bathroom and it came to me like eureka moments in the bathroom. Okay,
Yeah,
so
you couldn't let this movie go. Even after we finished
yeah,
watching it, you were still going on about this for like
yes, it
ever
it
after.
just stayed with me for days, and I'll probably rewatch it again before the month's out. So anyway, you're back. You watched the movie. Hope you enjoyed it, but not too much, because then you didn't get the point. So the plot of the movie is elusive at first because Grandpa is the leader of the local satanic cult. And let me reiterate, this movie takes place in small town USA, but obviously small town USA in a California type area, because even though it's Halloween, it's green grass the whole time. There's green leaves, green grass. It's a bright, sunny, happy time for most of the movie. For most of this
Yeah, but
movie,
that's like
most of this
everywhere now.
horror movie, most of this horror movie, well, this is the 80s, so
Yeah,
it's
I
a little bit
know.
more obvious. Most of this horror movie takes place during the day. Okay, uh, so Grandpa leads the local cult. The mother, his daughter, has three children. Tommy, I know it's always Tommy. I'm sorry. Tommy, Roger, and did they have a daughter? Yes, they have a
Yeah,
daughter.
the daughter, but
I
I have
can't
no
remember the
clue.
daughter's name now. I'm gonna say Susan.
I'm
So
thinking Susie. Just go with Susie.
Susan, Tommy, Roger, and Susan. I think Roger was slightly older, maybe. Tommy, Roger,
Tommy
and
was the
Susan.
oldest.
Tommy
Roger
was
was,
the Roger was okay. Tommy was the oldest brother. Roger was the younger, and Susan a little younger, the same age, maybe a year younger than Roger. Uh,
yeah, I get the feeling she was the youngest.
the movie starts off with Grandpa killing their father, one of the cultists, and grandfather killing their father because he's standing in the way of Tommy being the chosen one, and some kind of ceremony going down and all this stuff. Let me skip ahead to the end. The whole point of this is to essentially pass on the mantle of leadership of the cult, is the whole point. It's
Yeah.
hard to tell throughout the movie because the way they're talking about it, you're expecting them to, like, they're gonna perform a ceremony and open a gateway to hell. I mean, they don't really allude to it, but you get the sense it's like kind of a big deal, and it's just more like Tommy's in charge of the local satanic lodge now. I mean, that's really it. But I mean, there is like a magical transference or something, but it's kind of a very simple 80s level effect. Oh, you know who I would think? Let's forget Ed Wood and Manos. This is more like a Don Dohler movie with less special effects.
You're right.
Yeah, it's
I
like
haven't
Don
seen much of
Dohler.
him, but that
Yeah,
one film I saw of his,
yeah,
yeah, I could
yeah.
see
This
that.
definitely reminds me of the one the Fiend or whatever. Definitely reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of unknowns, bad acting, but still a pretty good movie. You know, it's like
Well,
really,
the actual story, if you remove the story and just
yeah.
explain the whole story, is kind of interesting. Do you mind if I spoil the end in
No, go
there?
ahead. Go. No, we're
Yeah,
doing
the
this in
ending,
bits and pieces.
we're watching, and you think that it's Tommy who's the murderer, or is it
Yeah. Yeah, because
Grandpa,
there's like two
or
different
is it,
people dressed up as Satan running around after a while, and you're not sure who's who. And at
yeah,
the
like
end,
is
they
it
sort of
more than
reveal,
one?
but then there's like two of them in a fight at the end. You're like, wait a minute, one of them's
But
obviously
then
Grandpa,
but then we find out the real murderer to this whole thing is the mother,
the mother,
and that
which
she's
makes
doing it
sense.
to protect her children.
Yeah,
from what we
which
can
makes sense
understand.
because at one point it's revealed on her wedding day, Grandpa raped her. She was like raped by her father, or she's apparently I have to assume this has been going on for a while. That she's constantly being raped by or molested by Grandpa.
Yeah.
And that's part
Okay,
of the
her
cult
protecting her
life.
children from Grandpa, I understand, which still doesn't make
Yeah,
sense though.
it's
If
a
she's letting
satanic cult. Yeah,
Grandpa around, why
yeah.
is she still letting Grandpa in their lives? But
Uh,
anyway, but her protecting them from the people she actually killed doesn't make a whole lot of sense. She kills Susan's boyfriend.
yeah,
Just, she don't like him, so he dead.
yeah,
She kills Roger's girlfriend, a woman who just mentioned in passing that she thought he
yeah.
was
Well, they weren't
cute.
even really dating. They went out like one time. you know.
Um,
Well, they. Okay, can you tell these in order because it's a little more interesting in how that happens in the
Go ahead.
movie. So
Okay.
she kills Susan's boyfriend and buries him in a shallow grave in the graveyard in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Then later that night, Roger hooks up with Susan's friend in that graveyard and they have sex on his corpse.
Yeah.
Okay? That was probably the high point for me for them. I was like, wow. And you keep expecting them to, because she's grabbing the cold dead hand, because he's halfway buried, right? She's grabbing the cold dead hand of Susan's dead boyfriend who's under her, and like squeezing onto it. I'm like, surely this is gonna stop, right? She's gonna realize that she's on a corpse, and she's gonna go, oh my no, like where's your third hand? No. But so that happens. Then she kills Tommy's girlfriend, which does make sense. Which actually happened before the other, but I wanted to, like that's what happens. That whole thing. She kills
Yeah.
Tommy's girlfriend.
Tommy's girlfriend makes
Was in
sense
the
because she is a
cult. She was
part
in
of
the
the
cult.
cult.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, by the way,
And I believe,
oh, I'm sorry if you've already gone and watched this. I'm sorry if you were offended by all the nudity, but it is an R-rated movie from the '80s, so not a lot of nudity, but TNA. Uh,
she was the first to die, was she?
she
Wasn't.
was she was the first to be killed. Yeah. Uh, So yeah, apparently it's the mother doing the murders the whole time. I actually had to go back and watch and make sure it wasn't her that killed the husband. It was just some random cult guy who comes up behind him with a hammer, and then they set his car on fire. So Grandpa's responsible for that one. But yeah, the mother the whole time is trying to protect her kids from both Grandpa and the cult and affection. Apparently, I didn't really get the reason. But it's stated in the movie she doesn't like Susan's boyfriend.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't.
One line.
Yeah,
There's one scene
but
with
that's all it
briefly
takes. At
mentioning.
least we get that. Most of these movies, hey, it could be worse, and we know it could be worse, don't we? We've seen worse, and we're getting to that.
Yeah.
We got one more hurdle before we get to the bronze. Anyway, this is a good movie. It has good plot structure. I mean, like you said, it's a great script. You know, the mother did it.
Well,
You don't see the mother
it's a
doing it.
great
Well, it's a good script.
kernel story, not
Yeah, it's
necessarily
yeah.
script.
The plot's
Remember, we
good.
were
It's good
saying
plot. Yeah, it's a good plot.
these
The writing's
people were
terrible.
paid money to say these
Yeah,
things.
people were paid money at some, I assume, or not, because they're friends of the director. But yeah, it's a good plot. The outline for the plot's really good. Some of the characters are interesting, but yeah, it's a great plot, very compelling. And like in the end, it was just Grandpa just wanted to pass the mantle of satanic cult leadership on to Tommy. Ends up doing it to Roger, who becomes spoiler. Oh, he's the leader of the cult now. But it's a really good movie. It's one of those. It starts out. It's pretty cheesy so far through. Really bad acting, really bad writing, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I mean, there's like some scenes. I mean, I could not stop laughing at some of
Like
the
you said,
delivery.
Grandpa is the
Oh,
highlight.
Grandpa. Oh, it's in
Grandpa's
the blood, Tommy. It's in the blood. Oh my God. And like, yeah, he's so great. Go watch it for him, if nothing else. It's you remember the Cajun man from Waterboy?
Oh
Yeah, that's
yeah,
him. I mean, yeah,
he is
that's
kind of
straight.
a bit
Yeah,
like him.
yeah.
Yeah,
Except you can understand him sometimes. We gonna hit
yeah.
on this on in the blood, Tommy. You can't have the blood. It's just all the way. It's like, oh my god, so good, so good. It's highly recommend. Two thumbs up all the way from both of us.
Not quite, but
It's good. It's a good watch. It's a good watch. It's definitely fun to watch with somebody. It's a fun discovery. When I didn't have a lot of expectations for this movie, I was actually surprised how good the movie was. I did not expect it to be as good as it was, to be honest. Um, so I recommend. Crystal recommends, not as much as I do, but does recommend. And then the next night we watched, or soon that week, we watched a perennial favorite, probably the worst film he's ever done, depending on who you ask. Watched Ernest Scared Stupid.
oh yeah,
It's good. It doesn't hold up as well as some of his other work.
yeah. It to me, Ernest Goes Stupid is right there on that middle line where he done really great with Camp, Ernest Goes to Camp, and
Yeah.
Ernest Saves Christmas.
Oh, Saves Christmas was so good. Oh, the Ernest Goes to Jail is still one of my favorites.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
Next was Ernest Goes to Jail, which I don't remember that well.
so
I
good.
saw it as a child, but have not seen
Yeah,
it since. And then came Ernest Scared Stupid, which is the last theatrical movie he
I
does,
believe so. Yeah, the last theatrical
and
film. It did not do
it
well.
it feels more aimed towards the kids.
Yeah,
It does feel a bit more like better for the kids. It's okay if you have kids
yeah.
or
And
your
probably, I think it's
Ernest
probably the
curious.
only one from that era that didn't feature Gaylord Sartain, and you can really
I
feel
did
his
not like that.
absence. Yeah,
Yes,
Bobby with that other guy was just weird.
it
Bobby
is
talking,
weird.
he got like one line in the movie, like, oh my, no, that's terrible. It's Bobby should never talk. Um,
So that really bothered me, the
yeah, but
absence
it's
of
it's it's
him.
good. It's good for kids. Kids will like it.
It is. It's
You
fine.
know,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's, my
Eartha Kitt's really good in it.
little kids may be a little scared
Yeah, well,
from
the
the
trolls are a little scary, but it's a good movie. It's probably one of those ones I'm gonna be less likely to watch every year.
yeah.
It's just like, oh, it's still, it was still available to watch, so let's throw it in. Pretty good. I recommend.
Yeah, I could
But
recommend
if
it for.
but mainly I recommended, like, if you liked it when you were younger, it's still about the same. You
That's
know,
the thing. Is like I did not see this one as a child. As a kid, I probably would have loved it.
yeah.
But seeing it as an adult, I don't have
Yeah.
nostalgic feelings towards it.
If
So it's
somehow
kind of like,
you're a fan of Ernest and have never seen this movie, you'll probably be okay with it, but you'll notice it's
he
not
has
as
better
good.
stuff.
Yeah,
Don't
there's
make this
definitely
your
better
first
films.
Ernest film.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say how this stands up to the direct-to-video stuff later.
Yeah, but I
I can
haven't seen any
only,
of that.
I can only think of there's Ernest Rides Again. I want to say Ernest Goes to Hell, but that's technically what it should have been called. But Slam Dunk Ernest, where he sells his soul to be a basketball player.
Oh, I did not know that's what that was
Yeah, I think
about.
it has. I know it has a basketball star. I can't remember who it is, actual celebrity in the movie. And I want to think there was a third film in there. I can't remember what it is though, but they were okay. I think they did manage to go back to more basic Ernest tropes, like Hey Vern. That's one thing I was sort of missing from this one. I like that they did in Ernest Saves Christmas, was them bursting into Ernest to Vern's house with the Christmas tree and all that with him and the kid was classic. That's a classic Ernest bit, and that was really missed. So yeah, I recommend Ernest Scared Stupid. Good for kids. If you like Ernest, it's a good movie. Um, doesn't age as well as some of his other work, but it's pretty good. Highly recommend. Recommend. Cautiously recommend. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, which I recall you suggesting
Before
we
we get to that
watch.
one, I did want to
Okay.
mention the DTV. You just skipped over
Well, yeah, I
DTV.
did because it's not really a
I
movie.
know, but we did
Yeah,
watch a Halloween edition of DTV that I found on
yeah,
YouTube. If you've never seen DTV, it was back during the 80s. They would take clips from Disney movies, a bunch of them, put them together with usually popular music of the
yeah.
time.
It was essentially a VMA. Is that was AMV? It's an
No,
AMV. They were
AMV,
AMVs,
yes.
yeah, and
Yes, they
animated
were
music
early
videos. Yeah,
AMVs.
yeah,
Yes, that's a very good.
yeah,
And it was cute to see one that was a Halloween edition for back
yeah.
then.
Yeah, well,
I don't
it was okay. I can't recommend like if you find it on YouTube, I don't recommend it because it is from like a much overdubbed. It's very lossy, is the term for it. It's very poor quality. It's better just to go look at the
I
soundtrack. Look at the it's got the
no,
song list there. Just go listen to the
no.
songs.
If you were a fan of it when you were a kid, I think you'll still
Yeah,
get a really
it's good for
nostalgic
nostalgia,
kick
but
out of
it's really terrible if you've never seen it before. It's hard to watch. Half of it's
it. And
unwatchable.
I don't know his name. Well, wait, no, it was like it's like Mad Doctor Matt something like that. But some guy on YouTube has made his own current versions of DTV, even using the original openers from DTV, and they're great if you can find them.
Okay.
He did a really good one. If I can find him, we'll link him on the Facebook page
Yeah.
for the show.
I would
His are
say,
really good.
yeah, try to find the source materials for some of these, like the Mickey, Donald, and Goofy as Ghostbusters was a great cartoon. Trick or Treat for Donald Duck it was used a lot in the shorts. So look up the Disney Halloween cartoons and watch those because that's what you. If you can find the Disney Halloween, the year that had Jonathan Winters as the host, that's the best because he plays like the guard at the Disney Vault, and he also plays a
Oh, I
pump.
know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's actually a
Yeah,
really early one.
yeah, that's an
A
early. That's a
very,
hard.
very
That's a
early
more
one.
obscure one because they made it a little different from year to year. But that's a really interesting one with Jonathan Winters
That
because
wasn't the
he's.
one I grew up with. The one
No,
I grew
I
up
didn't.
with was
It's
the
like
one
I
with
said, I
the
didn't either.
magic mirror.
I didn't either. I grew up with the Magic Mirror. Winters was a little before my time, but if you can find that,
I
it's
believe
it's
it
worth a watch.
actually. I believe that one actually may have been from like the late 70s.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think it was like I want
I
to put it
actually
in
want to put it like
77.
78 or
Yeah,
79 or so, maybe 80. It is
yeah,
a really old one, yeah.
yeah. If and I don't think they only I think they only aired it like once or twice probably. So if you find that one, you're lucky. Watch that. That has a lot of the good cartoons. That's what I recommend. That not necessarily the DTV stuff because it's terrible to watch.
I do still recommend the DTV stuff.
Well, I'm
That's
not.
right.
I'm spurious about your recommendations after last night.
Okay, now you can go on to
Okay,
our
so
final
yeah.
Halloween so
So,
far.
well, final for that for the last one we watched this week. When we watched Hack a Lantern, there were a couple of other Halloween-related movies popped up on YouTube. One of them was called Hell High, which we're probably going to watch next. I want to maybe is on the list.
Hmm.
I'm not sure how Halloween-related it is, though. It looked like there were some kids trick-or-treating on it. But the other one was obviously Halloween-related. It's called Trick or Treats from
Yes.
1982. And if you read the very short plot summation for this film, it's a babysitter alone on Halloween, and a killer coming to from an insane asylum to get revenge, which is essentially the plot to Halloween, the John Carpenter movie. It's John Carpenter, right?
Yes.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it was going to be called the original title for the Halloween was the Babysitter Murders. So this movie pretty much sounds like it's going to be a ripoff of Halloween, and I really wish it had been. I really
Yeah.
wish they had made the effort to make this more of a ripoff of a good movie as opposed to whatever it was. Because there was about three movies going on during this movie. So since you picked this one, more or
Well,
less, you decided we would watch it. I wanted to watch it. So what do you recall this movie being about? What was the plot here? What was the Tell me about this movie, Crystal.
a woman being tortured by an obnoxious child slash possibly 40-year-old midget who's getting
Yes.
his kicks out of it.
Yeah.
And then this other story about a man who once lived in that house and is the father of that child, but is never acknowledged that he
Yeah.
is the father of that child.
Yeah.
Or at least presumably the father of that child.
Yeah. Even though in the beginning of the movie we see which takes place 4 years prior, there's no mention or we never see the
No,
kid.
no
So
mention of it.
yeah.
We have to assume that if he wasn't his
Yeah.
father, he was his stepfather. He should know this man.
Yeah.
Either in any way, this kid should know this man.
Yeah.
But it's never acknowledged that he knows this person at all. And that guy trying to get home, constantly making phone calls, and
Exchanging clothes with hobos, stopping for
yeah,
coffee, getting
yeah.
change. I don't know, so much going on, beating up random people.
But very weirdly, a tolerant society
Yeah.
who recognizes this man's choice to dress as a woman in this and always refer to him as a woman.
Yeah.
It's never acknowledged that this is a man in a dress who stole this nurse's outfit. It's always accepted that this is a woman.
Yep.
Everyone treats him just like a woman and stuff. It's a
Uh,
really weird
yeah.
movie.
So
But
so
it's
I
not as fun as it sounds.
it's yeah, it's I would say this
Oh,
movie.
oh, and we had a very brief cameo of David Carradine
Yeah,
in it.
David Carradine is in this movie
Briefly.
briefly, and I have to
Very
assume
briefly.
you question like how much did they have to pay to get David Carradine in here? I have to assume the director had blackmail information on him or
Hmm.
something, or like a drunk David Carradine happened to show up while they were filming. They just like get him in front of a camera, before he sobers up. Yeah, so this movie, it's hard to unpack. I kind of had the opposite experience with this movie that I had with Hack a Lantern, where I loved like the first hour or so of this movie. I was kind of into it, and then the last half hour, when the two movies merged, it became something worse. And there was like so many things I wanted this movie to do in that last 30 minutes that it totally avoided doing. Like tell a compelling
Yeah.
story, wrap up some plot points, be interesting, not stretch 30 minutes into 3 hours. Did all kinds of terrible things. Because yeah, the beginning of the movie and this is where there's so many questions I have for this movie, so many answers I want from this movie. It starts off with the wife slash mother having the father committed to an insane asylum. The question here is, was he insane or was she just
Yeah.
trying to get rid of him?
Yeah, we have no idea.
They never really
Even
successfully
at
answer
the
that. Even
yeah.
after
Like,
they show him in the asylum, that he was there for 4 years, like, so we have to assume he was probably crazy enough to not get out, or it's just that's how asylums work sometimes. I mean, admittedly, that's true. People get sent to insane asylums even if they're not crazy and can't get out. So
yeah.
it's hard to know if he was actually crazy or just really unlucky. And I have to say this: most of the first of the movie plays like a comedy. I mean,
Unintentional comedy, but
unintentional
yeah,
comedy. Well, I mean, some of it seemed kind of intentional. I mean, it
I
really
don't
felt
know.
like they were playing some of this stuff for laughs. I mean, you got the two guys. Oh, by the way, the spoilers for all this. The two guys at the
A little
beginning of the
late
movie.
for that, but
Yeah, I've said we're gonna do spoilers through the whole thing.
yeah.
Um, the two guys from the asylum who come to collect the husband. They're gigantic, have big mustaches. The guy who directed this also directed a lot of porn at the same time. They look like extras from porn movies. But they wrestle with him and they get thrown in the pool, and the wife's just standing there with this look. We're like, well, this is typical kind of look on her face. I mean, it's really, especially the stuff with the husband, really feels like it's being played for comedy because they're not setting up
Yeah.
suspense. That's for sure. They don't understand
No.
the concept of suspense.
I think they were trying to though, with like him constantly calling the babysitter. I
Yeah,
think that was
but it was she thought it was
he's
just
telling
like
her he's
she thought it
coming
was the
home.
kid. She thought it was the kid the whole time,
Yeah.
and she was like, "Oh, you
Yeah.
better stop it, Jackie. I know it's you, Christopher. It was Christopher. You better stop it, Christopher. I know it's you." I'm like, what the hell? It's like it was comedy. It was high comedy for the first two-thirds of the movie. Then like 4 years later, the wife hires a babysitter who happens to be a struggling actress in Hollywood. Her boyfriend is a white redneck who's playing Othello.
Yeah. He's
I mean,
yeah.
this is a question I was like, do you know what Othello is? I wanted whoever wrote this and directed it, like, because like, okay, either that's a joke or you don't know what Othello is. I'm leaning
I
towards
don't
joke.
know.
I want to lean to,
I
like I
think
said, most of this plays for comedy. So he's upset because she's going to go babysit and not see his premiere of Othello at medieval times, because that's what it looks like he's dressed for.
yes.
Welcome to Shakespearean times. That's maybe there's a version of that there. Um, but she's going to go babysit. He's going to do Othello. We go to the asylum at some point where he's plotting to escape, and there's like a room full of inmates there. I'm very sympathetic towards the plight of the mentally challenged, but this is not that kind of movie. This is like Three Stooges version of what a nut house would look like, is what
Oh
it
God,
is.
yes.
It's people
Yeah.
acting crazy and playing with their faces and blah 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 blah, bubbling and blah blah blah, blah no, I'm crazy, hijinks going on the whole time, and it's silly, it's goofy, it's played for laughs. Then the babysitter gets to the house and meets the mother and David Carradine, who I guess is the stepfather, maybe,
Yeah.
and they're both dressed in top hat and tails. And so the
Well,
discussion,
I guess we never did explore the option that that kid could have been Carradine's
well, that's
son.
that's the question. Is he David? Which it's only been 4 years, so I have to assume she
Yeah.
didn't have a kid on the side because the kid's 10.
No,
So
it's either Carradine's.
it's
I guess we hadn't thought about that.
well,
It could have
that's
been
possible.
Carradine's
It could
son.
be her. Now she's the mother, so it's it's
It
it's
is.
it's Carradine's stepkid, if anything.
Okay, I couldn't remember if
Because
it
it's
specifically
got
said
it's
that
got to
she was
be
the mother.
the other guy's kid, yeah. Anyway, but Carradine and the mother are both in top coat and top hat and tails with canes and everything. And there's the debate we've been having about them because some of the trappings in the house. The kid wants to be a magician. Are they magicians?
Or are they tap
Are
dancers?
they tap dancers? Are they a dance act? Because they're going to Vegas that night, and the mother makes it very clear to the son that this is business,
Not pleasure.
not pleasure. They're going on a business trip to Las Vegas in top hat and tails for Halloween. And I'm like, are they gonna go do an overnight magic act or something, or is this some kind of are they part of like a very elite sex worker group or something? I don't know. It's very weird either way. So
Ooh.
yeah, David Carradine drunkenly gropes I want to say Linda. Was that her name?
Yeah, I believe it was
Just gonna say
Linda.
Linda. Drunkenly gropes Linda. which may have been in the script. We're not sure. It's hard to tell. And then they leave, and she has to put up with Christopher the rest of the night, who is, like we've said, might be a 40-year-old midget or he might be a 10-year-old kid. It's hard to tell from the way he acts.
I
Um,
still love the idea that he is their partner. He's a
yes,
40-year-old midget, and this is how he gets his
yeah.
like kink
This
fix.
is yeah.
He
This is
hires they hire
like if you
babysitters
guys are
for
going out of
him.
town on another job, you better hook me up with a blonde, before you go. And so they do. They get somebody to watch him for the night, and I don't know. But he pulls pranks on her, just annoying, just so annoying. And the problem I have with I don't mind him doing the pranks. Honestly, he's this annoying kid. I get it. He's a fat, annoying kid. That's what they were in the 80s. Trust me, I was one. I was him. Um, the problem is she constantly reacts to it. Everything he
Yes,
does, she loses her
yes.
cool. She's like, "Oh, you kid! Oh, you're driving me crazy!" She feeds him. She is reacting the way he wants her to. She's
After
overreacting to
the
everything.
first 10 times, you
Yeah,
should be over it.
yeah. Okay, and
And
now
this goes
this is
on.
something
This just keeps
else.
going on.
This is something else that drives me crazy. Okay, and she's all the night she's got the trick or treaters coming. She's getting fun. The husband, meanwhile, escapes from the asylum disguised as a nurse. Who apparently, yeah, this is one of the best plot point in the whole movie. I'll give him this. Like, okay, thumbs up for this. The nurse he attacks just happened to be wearing a wig, so that's how he escapes. Because if she hadn't been wearing a wig, it would have been obviously a meatloaf looking guy in drag, running around, Los Angeles. I don't know where they are. So he gets
Well,
away, and
today's Halloween,
it
though,
is
so I
Halloween.
guess
It is Halloween, but everybody keeps thinking he's a woman.
yes, they
So
do. Yes,
so
they
that it's
do.
not like, hey, nice costume, pal. That never happens, and we
No,
never see anyone else in costume on
not
his.
outside the trick or treaters.
No, no, not in his story. Remember, there's two stories going on here. They're on a
Oh yeah,
collision
history.
course for
No, no, there's
comedy.
nobody.
Yeah,
No.
he never sees there.
Also,
His.
remember the nurse he attacked when she was being interviewed?
Oh my God,
She's
we'll get to
very
that.
happy.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Let me catch us up to where, yeah, we are with this guy. So he's dressed up as her, and he's dressed up as a nurse. And he's trying to make his way home to seek revenge on his wife for putting him in an asylum. Um, pretty much he's stopping at phone. He apparently has a lot of change, so he's stopping at phone booths, calling home, making threats, being rebuffed by her because she thinks it's Christopher calling and disguising his voice, the
Yeah,
kid calling. So she's ignoring that. The guys, he's stopping in coffee shops, he's taking cabs, he's having run-in with cops who don't know he's a man in drag, even though there's a all points bulletin for a maniac who beat up a nurse and escaped an asylum. They don't notice. They don't pick up on this. My favorite scene during his story though was he's going down this 42nd Street kind of area, and this drunken guy starts hitting on him, right, trying to get him to drink the booze, and he's sort of playing it off like, oh no, I couldn't, and just finally just grabs the booze and runs with it. And I love that, just like, give me the booze, and just goes. I love that part. But yeah, he's making his way home. Yeah, they eventually they have a live interview later, right before he shows up at the house, where they're interviewing the nurse he attacked, and the scene, it looked a little rapey, the scene, and she's the
yeah,
whole while they're interviewing her. I guess she's happy to be on TV, so she sounds weirdly happy. She seems
yeah.
weirdly happy to, like, oh, I was attacked, and he did this to me and that to me. It was terrible. She seemed really
He stuck
happy and
it in
like,
my mouth.
yeah,
Remember?
yeah, it's like
Like,
there's sexual
he stuck it in
innuendo.
my mouth.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of sexual innuendo there, and it's a silly moment. This is why I say part of this movie, the first hour or so, is kind of played for laughs. It's a bit silly. Um, and then we get to two plot points appear out of nowhere, never to be seen again. Let's wait. Let's three. Let's back up. Things that never pay off. Let's start listing them. One,
The dog.
the dog. Before the mother leaves, she also mentions, like, yeah, the kid gets in bed by 11. Don't forget to feed the dog. There's dog food on the counter for the dog. There's never a dog in the movie.
Nope.
Somewhere near the end, during the intense hour-long attack by the husband wandering around the house from room to room, someone throws a cat into the kitchen out of nowhere.
And
Just
we
there's a
did.
cat
No, no,
there.
no. You're wrong. Well,
Was
yeah.
it?
At
Well, you
some
did.
point,
There was like a meow earlier or something.
we heard a
What?
dog bark at
We
some
did hear
point
a
during the
dog
movie.
bark, but no, well, we never saw the dog. That dog could have been
No.
outside. That could have been like a dog running by while they were filming. We never see a dog. I mean, I feel
No.
like is there going to be a scene where the dog comes to the rescue? You know,
Yeah.
the dog is some kind of, is the dog going to play a part in this movie? There's no dog. They said, "Hey, there's going to be a dog." There's no dog. Okay? Then
No.
another plot point, while after Christopher pulls 20 different pranks on her and she keeps getting fooled every time, she tells him the story of the boy who cried wolf.
Yes.
Okay? Which leads you to believe that that's going to pay off. That at some point, when the killer shows up, Christopher is going to be like, "Oh no, help! I'm being killed!" Actually being killed, and it's because he's done it too many times. Nothing, he gets murdered. Or she doesn't believe him. Right? Never pays off. Never pays
Yeah.
off.
I really thought he was, especially since like there's a scene where it does look like he's dead,
Yeah, yeah. There's a
possibly.
scene when she finds him in bed. It looks like he's sleeping. It's like, but did we miss a scene? Did his father slit his throat in his sleep
Yeah.
while was he screaming for help? And she didn't notice it. Well, did I miss something? No, he was just asleep.
Yeah.
I've never been more disappointed by the survival of a child. I really was like, this kid should have been dead, or at least there should have been a part where like he
Yeah.
was screaming for help and the killer changed his mind and the kid had to like there was really a guy and she won't believe him. I mean that should have paid off. We
Yes.
deserved that. We deserved payoff for
Yes.
that. We did not get it.
Well,
The,
I mean, it sets it up so much the whole time.
yes,
He keeps pulling these
there's so
pranks, like where
right
he cuts
before the
his
guy
fingers
shows up.
off.
Yeah, the guy
And these are
shows.
just like, the thing is, these aren't even, what to say, these aren't even like little pranks. He does pranks where he cuts his hand off
Yeah,
or cuts his finger
these are
off. He
very
does a prank where he
elaborate.
drowns
Yeah,
in the
he's a
pool.
guillotine in his room. He
Yeah, the
does all this kind of
guillotine.
stuff. He does oh the drowning scene. There's a drowning scene where she pulls him out and does what she thinks is mouth to mouth, but is
Oh
actually making
God.
out with a 10-year-old child
Yeah,
is what she
that's
does.
weird.
It
Yeah,
is if you
that
watch that, it's like she's not going she's like the whole time. She is like
he's
there's
trying to
lip and
do
tongue
tongue
action there the
compressions
whole time. Yeah.
apparently.
Yeah. She has no idea what CPR is. She went out with a
No.
lifeguard or something. She dated a lifeguard who lied to her, is what I think happened. It's like, yeah, I'll teach you CPR. Wink. I didn't know it could be like this. But yeah, that's a ridiculous scene. But yeah, even the scene before the father shows up, I'm gonna call him the father, the husband, whatever. He puts on
Yeah.
this old record of sound effect, this horror sound effects, which would have been perfect to cover whatever was going on. There's
Yep.
just like so much they could have done with that, and they don't. Why bother? I was like, did you run out of script? Was there like a page missing? Have like there's like it seems like there was like some good stuff going on there. Yeah, out of nowhere we get this other plot point that involves two women editors for this horror movie that just starts in the middle of the movie. Like, where did they come from? No idea. They
Mhm.
just appear out of nowhere. And apparently they're friends of Linda who are putting together a hot reel, what do you call it when you, like, a clip reel or something for, because she wants to be an actress or something, something for her to show like these commercial guys. She's trying to get a commercial gig or something. And so she's going to drop it by the house. Okay, so she's supposed to be coming by the house to drop this tape off, which is a great 80s tape because it's like the size of like it's like almost like a 35 millimeter print or something. It's huge. And her boyfriend is supposed to be coming by when he gets through playing Othello. I still can't get over that. He's supposed to be
Yeah.
showing up. So we're expecting all this payoff. We were like, the murder,
And
the blood is gonna
I
fly.
believe that's mentioned twice.
Yeah,
Like when
it's mentioned
he
like every
calls.
time he talks to her 2 or 3 times. Every time it's like, come on by, come on down. The kid's asleep. Let's get it on. The typical babysitter gets murdered plot. I'm expecting all this. Like the boyfriend's gonna get there. The other friend's gonna get there. Slash slash slash. It's killing time. It's killer time. Uh, we get one murder in this whole movie, and it's the friend dropping off the tape. Right?
Yeah.
She shows up, is mistaken for his wife, and like as soon as he does it, he realizes he's made a mistake. Um, the boyfriend never shows up, even though
Yep.
that's been promised several times. And the ending of the movie pretty much is he thinks she's his wife, even though she's obviously not. He sneaks in the room. She goes up to the kids' room where they've got was it Chekhov's guillotine has
Yeah.
been sitting there the whole movie, and blatantly set up cutting the guy's head off. The guy runs in, trips, and falls into the guillotine, and they kill him with the guillotine. And she goes down to call the cops, and inexplicably the kid comes up behind her and is about to stab her in the back with a knife, and freeze frame goes to credits. So I guess the kid's a killer now. So yeah, look for Trick or Treats too,
Yeah.
where with Christopher, I'm the killer. It was a terrible movie.
It was.
I don't recommend it, but I'm like,
I do
don't
not.
don't not see it. I give it like a maybe. If you like really, really bad movies, I can recommend watching it as a.
It's kind of boring too.
It's
It's
kind
a
of, well, okay,
problem.
like I said, the last 30 minutes. Okay, the two movies that are going on in the first hour are interesting because you're like trying to put it's like a puzzle. It's like you see these two big moving parts, and you're wondering how they're going to come together, and you're getting all this setup, all this foreshadowing, and in the last 30 minutes, none of it pays off. Nothing pays off. That's what I hate about this movie, and that's why I don't recommend it. But I recommend watching the first hour because it's the beginnings of what could be a passable C grade movie, but it goes to crap right there at the last half hour. Like what fell apart, This movie was going places. It was setting. You know what it reminds me of?
Hmm.
What other series is really well known for foreshadowing stuff and never paying off things?
American Horror Story.
American Horror Story and Scream Queens. Both of
Yeah,
those, there
Scream
was like
Queen.
several things we were watching that are like, I bet, we would see stuff going like, I bet that's going to lead to something. Watch the entire series and nothing happens. Still mad about those ants.
Yeah.
That giant ant
Yeah.
farm that one girl had that never paid off. There should have been a murder involving ants. Why not?
There should have been.
But anyway, I can't not recommend this movie, but as like huge caveat, it's terrible. It's really, really bad. I have a high tolerance for bad movies. But I think the thing is, it's not boring until the last 30 minutes. That's what I can't forgive a boring movie.
I found the
Bermuda,
whole thing kind of boring,
it
to
was
be
like I
honest.
said, I was trying to put it together. I was watching the movie, fixing it as we went. And it's not, but it's not 100% boring till the last part. It's kind of slow paced. I don't know. I think you have to be in the right mood when you watch it. I don't know. Give it a try. It's terrible. It might be for
Don't
you.
bother.
You know,
I
if you
say
if
don't
you're like
bother.
me and you don't like yourself and you enjoy punishing yourself, watch this movie. You'll regret it. It's regretful. So that's all I have to talk about. Oh, I do have one other thing. Um, that's all the movies we've seen this week. I did read a really good comic book series by Terry Moore this week. Rachel Rising, highly recommend it. If you have an unlimited subscription on Comixology, it's available on unlimited right now. If not, go buy the whole series. Why not? You got the money. I highly recommend it. Very very good. Very supernatural. It's not horror per se, but it's a lot of good myth stuff in there. Pretty good. Pretty good stuff. Very very well drawn. Very well written.
What's it about, real brief?
um,
Yeah, sum it up.
I don't want to give away too much, but
That's what I'm
it
saying. Just
starts
brief.
off with a woman being murdered, then waking up in a shallow grave and having to dig her way out and try to find out who did it and why, because she doesn't really remember
Hmm.
exactly what happened. So, and a lot of people think she's dead, so it's a lot of explaining to do. So, very interesting from there.
That does sound really good.
Yeah. And the place she was buried is also the burial ground for 100 witches. So,
Oh.
yeah, like I said, very supernatural. Yeah. There's been talk of it going to a TV series or a movie or something. I think it would make a good
Mhm.
series. Yeah. It'd be an excellent police procedural. Get on that.
Oh no.
It could be the next Brains iZombie, or whatever.
I know.
Yeah.
They screwed that up.
So
We should
anything
talk
you want
about
to,
that.
yeah, anything you want to recommend before we go?
I'll recommend two YouTubers that I've been enjoying lately. One is Kaylee Elise, um, CayleIGH, and then space Elise, Elise. She does a lot of true crime, but also just some spooky stuff, a little bit of fictional creepy stories. She does a lot of unsolved cases, a little bit folklore like Baba Yaga and Mothman and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She's really great to watch.
Baba Yaga is the
But
new Baba Yaga is the new mermaid, by the way.
yes, so I highly recommend her. She's really entertaining to watch.
All right.
And also is Ask a Mortician. It's not just uh, there is stuff about you can ask that has to do with the mortician profession, but she does a lot of stuff on famous corpses like Eva Peron, Lennon, uh, some mummies,
I assume that's
just different
Vladimir.
things. Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
got it. Vladimir Lenin. Um, just a lot of different things. I will say I can understand if you're not into either one of these because these are more on the darker side of stuff, but they are very interesting if you're into this stuff.
Okay.
Both of these people.
I definitely love a good embalming story.
Yeah, she talks about that. It's a really good channel. She also has a book that just came out that I don't know what it's about yet. I need to go check and see what that's about. Might be something interesting to get. I'll name two other YouTubers that I've enjoyed lately that I haven't watched as much of. One is Rob Dyke, also in the vein of creepy stories, creepy unsolved mysteries, and folk tales and stuff like that. And Rainbot, REIGNBOT, Rainbot. She also is. This is, I guess you would call it the creepy side of YouTube that I discovered recently and started watching. So the first two I highly recommend. Love both of those. Ask a Mortician and Kaylee Elise, and then Rob Dyke, what I've seen of him, he's been pretty good so far in Rainbot. Mm. Oh, and also go ahead and throw out BuzzFeed Blue. On there, they also have a series where they do unsolved mystery and creepy things on there. I guess that's all I want to recommend at the moment.
All right, sounds good. Sounds like you got it covered. That's going to be all for us this week. Hopefully, we'll be back next week. If you like what you're hearing, follow us on the Jackjaw Beat Around on Facebook, and we'll see you soon. Happy All Hallows.
Happy All Hallows.
Good night.
Good night.